Hi, and welcome to the season 1 wrap up of the Hit Your Target podcast. I'm Laura Cappendale, your host, a coach, a strategist, and a mentor. Now, that sounds a mouthful, but ultimately for me, I am passionate about people. And today, in this episode, I want to speak from the heart. This episode is a bit different because it's just me reflecting with you as we wrap up this first season. This started as a project ultimately to answer a question that's always fascinated me. What's the difference that makes the difference? I came across this phrase during my NLP training, and it's one that's really stuck with me because when you look at two people with similar backgrounds, similar challenges, similar circumstances, why is it that one rises, maybe reinvents themselves, they're thriving, but the other stays stuck? So, the purpose of this podcast was to find out. And throughout the entire season, what I've used is a tool called the Neurological Levels of Change. This is an NLP model that helps us understand how we operate and grow at different layers of our lives. So we start with environment, where you are, who you're around, what your physical, social environment is like. What is it that reflects who you are? And then behavior, what do you do? How do you behave? What circumstances, what's a characteristic of your behavior? And then the next one, skills and capabilities, what you're able to do. What skills do you have? What are your talents? Then there's beliefs and values. So our beliefs and values are our driver of what's important. Why do we do what we do? What is it that you stand for? What is it that drives your purpose? And then identity. So this is the big one. This is when we get to the root cause or root. This is when we get to the root of who we believe we are. So our identity normally starts with I statements. So I am honest, I am reliable. All these things that we put an I in front of are generally identity. So it's our sense of self. And then the last one is the purpose and mission. And this really is the bigger picture of who you serve, why are you here, what is it that you're contributing to in the big picture of the world. So it's one of my favourite coaching tools because it gets to the heart of lasting change. And this isn't just surface level action. So in each episode, I've invited my guests to unpack their journey through that lens. So to go back over a few episodes, not just for the stories that were in there, but I want to analyse a bit of the NLP principles that showed up beneath them. If we look at Skylar Andrew and Trey Lowe's podcast, for example, these two stood out for their ability to reframe their stories. There's an NLP term that the map is not the territory. Now, I explain this in the way that the territory can't change, but how we interpret our map of the world can. So, for example, if you were creating a map of the world and you were a town hall and you're creating a map of Lincoln, for example, you might put the cathedral on there, the community centres, libraries. But if you were using that same picture of the city centre, but you were coming at it from a new Costas, for example, then the likelihood is you're not going to include all of the things that the town hall put on that map. You're only going to include the directions to your Costa branches. So going back to the podcast, Skylar and Trey talked about how they'd both faced hardship, they've had public pressure, adversity, but what made the difference? They understood that the way we interpret the world, our map, is not the world itself. So a tip in there, next time you feel stuck in a story about who you are or what's possible, maybe ask yourself, what else could this mean? If you were to change your map, you can change your results. Moving on from that, another NLP principle is that flexibility is power. So those with the greatest flexibility have the greatest influence. And I want to draw on the episode from Lisa Bryce in particular, and also Heather Lee talked about this in her podcast. Both explored how powerful change happens when we stop forcing logic and start listening to our emotions, our inner energy, our body. What is it telling us, our inner wisdom? So Lisa has been a great mentor for me, and she talks about how she brought horses into the coaching world, which, if you haven't experienced Lisa's coaching, it's just phenomenal because the experience of coaching with horses is just another level. But also, it's that powerful metaphor for non-verbal communication. And again, Heather explored this with her NLP tools that she'd studied as a practitioner to help her team lead during the COVID crisis. So again, a takeaway from this is when your strategy isn't working, pivot your approach, not your goal. A third point that I want to talk about is how behavior has a positive intention, even though it may not come across that way to start with. So Emma Tatlow and Coco Novak actually talked about this. Emma talked about momentum and movement, not just physically, but mentally. And Coco spoke about shifting her identity after becoming a parent. Now, in both cases, they've explored the idea that even the fear of something new or procrastination has a positive intention. So, what I mean by that is it's trying to keep us safe. Sometimes we fear things or react in a certain way to things because of that unconscious positive intention. Again, a tip from this is, what is this part of me trying to protect when that happens? Instead of fighting the resistance, how can you learn from it? Number 4, you are not your identity. You're the architect of it. So with this, there are moments in life where we've had to let go of old versions of ourselves. Maybe it's a former role, former dreams that we had, former relationships, but we've had to let go to be able to move on. Pasquale and Martello really eloquently described this was for them, because Pasquale in particular, she'd had a West End career, massive success at a young age, and then had a debilitating stroke. So she was forced to move into a new position. And also, Marcello talked about how he'd become very successful, but didn't then like who he'd become. And he said, actually, that's just not me anymore. I don't want to be that person. So NLP invites us to rewrite our inner script. It might be an old program that's talking to us, and we have to look within again to see what's deeper, what's more aligned with who we are now. So I hope that's given you some insight into the way that I have structured some of those questions, some of those conversations. Perhaps you might want to listen to them again. And between the episodes, I've shared 2 solo deep dives. So one was about the FAST model, which is my framework to help cut through the noise and take aligned action. So getting focus, taking action, demonstrating success will lead to transformation, and looking at what is it that will move the needle, where is it your focus needs to go. And the other episode I talked about mBIT, multiple brain integration techniques. So this idea that we don't just have one brain, we have 3, our head, our heart, and our gut brain. And when they're out of sync, we feel it. But when they're aligned, we step into our most powerful integrated self. And when I said this episode is from the heart, I meant it. And I want to be honest, this podcast has been a learning curve for me too. I've recorded guest interviews, solo episodes, juggled editing with client work. I've fought my own imposter syndrome. I've asked myself more than once, am I actually adding value here? Should my video quality be better? Should I have better audio? But what I've learned is the difference that makes the difference is often not a grand, amazing gesture. It's simply consistency. It's showing up, it's being curious, asking the right questions, and being willing to grow in public. And Brené Brown and the likes of Simon Sinek and all these great people have told us that actually consistency is key, and being vulnerable helps to grow authenticity. So this is for me, this is just a learning curve, and they're actually a bit scary to do, but they remind me that frameworks are only useful if we live them and we do the action and do what we say we will. And the other thing to bear in mind is that podcasting, I've learned, is a big ask. So there's a lot of work that goes into getting guests, booking guests, recording the episodes, editing the episodes, putting all the transcript together and the notes for Spotify and everything else that goes with it. So for me, the purpose of the podcast is, one, I learn an awful lot from my guests. I love having great conversations with some really inspiring people. And I hope to share some of that knowledge and some of those learnings with a wider audience. But I'm also going to be honest with myself. So I'm taking a break over summer to recharge, to work with clients, create space just for new inspiration. I already have some ideas. So season 2 is definitely coming, and it will probably be around how we lead with all three brains. So going deeper into mBIT, aligned leadership, and having emotional intelligence. So if season 1 was more about understanding the why people change, I want season 2 to be about mastering how to live that change every day. So I want to end this with a heartfelt thank you to every guest. Thank you for your honesty and your depth, because there is some amazing stories in there. And thank you to everyone who's listened, whether you've tuned in regularly or just popped into the odd episode. Thank you. Every download, share, message has meant so much to me, and please do stay connected. I'm always on LinkedIn. Also on Instagram. Tell me what's landed with you and what's your difference that makes the difference. And if you'd like to work together one-to-one, whether that's getting career clarity, leadership coaching, or perhaps exploring a team dynamics workshop for your team, please head to the link in the show notes or drop me a message, because I've got space for a few more coaching clients this year, and I'd love to work with people who want to make the difference. So until next season, keep aiming high, trust that inner compass within you, and remember, you already have everything you need to hit your target. Thank you. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to rate the show or leave a comment. It really helps us reach more people. And don't forget to share it with anyone else who could use a little motivation today. Have a fantastic day and make sure you hit your targets.